Welcome to Divisive Issues, the foul-mouthed, spoiler-filled comic book podcast where we talk about comics. I'm Sly.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Darryl.
And we have a guest today.
And I'm Michael. I'm motherfucking Michael.
Whoa,
Michael M. Rader. The M stands for motherfucker.
Tone down the language.
Whoa, language, please. There's kids around here, Michael.
So I have to immediately, at the top of the show, issue a formal apology. I told everybody Phil was going to be back, and he got back yesterday when this comes out, so he's not on this episode.
So Michael is Ryan's co-host on his other podcast, which is better than this one, with Gurney.
Let's not go crazy.
Can you tell us about that podcast, guys? Plug yourselves.
I'll let Michael do it.
Plug yourselves in.
Okay, so it's a really stupid idea, and Ryan and I are not great, but it's we have a lot of fun with it.
When you plug something, you're supposed to make yourself sound good.
Right. Okay, so it's a great, hilarious podcast, a comedy podcast, where Ryan and I are spending a year speculating about the plot of a movie, and this year we're speculating about the plot of We Bought a Zoo. Guests come on and bring us scraps of information like IMDb reviews, and and we're piecing it together. It's fun.
Yes.
Yeah, if you like good improv comedy, I recommend it.
Oh, thank you.
Wow.
Speaking of good comedy, what did you make us read this week, Sly?
Good comedy.
All right, so it's EDGELORD August.
The most wonderful time of the year.
And that's why I'm here, renowned edgelord.
Yeah, of course.
Motherfucker Michael.
The most explicit podcast, like McGurney, warning to everyone. Motherfucker Michael here. But we were debating what should we do. Darryl and Ryan were like, we should do more Mark Millar. Make it Mark Millar month. And I'm like, no. I was like, we should vary it up a bit. And I want to revisit Garth Ennis, writer of The Boys, this story where Superman analog tells a girl to suck his dick.
Yep.
And I knew about this comic. I didn't know. I never read this comic before, so this is not like me pitching one of my favorite books to Dell and the others. I heard about this book by people who never read comics before, and they said this is one of their favorite books of all time. Like, not even just like a good comic. Like, oh, they love this comic. So I'm like,
wait, who are these people?
This is up there with Slaughterhouse-5 and Catch-22.
And I was thinking, I read the premise, and if you know The Boys, you know how edgy edgelord Garth Ennis is, and the premise is super edgelord. The premise is basically zombies, except instead of becoming zombies per se, they become the worst human beings imaginable, and they just become like animals, fulfilling their darkest, deepest wishes.
I described it as, it's like The Walking Dead, but the dead people come back as shitlords.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Right, and they can plan and think ahead, and they're kind of basically the people they were before, but no inhibition
Exactly.
at all. Like, they just act on their worst impulses.
It's weird to say they're basically, because they're really crazy and sometimes naked, sometimes they wear skin, and
Right.
they really like raping, and they really like just torturing people.
Right, and they can't really, I mean, they can kind of talk, but they mostly just
swear.
babble and swear. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's perfect for EDGELORD August.
A lot of them like saying cunt.
So, okay, we didn't start from the beginning. What's, like, the history of Crossed, Sly?
Oh yeah, so that's a good question. So the history of Cross was actually the first volume was meant to be the only volume. I didn't notice. I thought Garth Ennis like wrote Cross like throughout, but Garth Ennis basically came up with the first volume, which I really love. But he came up with the first volume as a self-contained story. It pretty much outlines a lot of the details about the world they're in, and he planned it out as one self-contained story. He wanted the fate of the characters to be solid. He didn't want anyone to follow up on the fate of the characters in that story. But other writers started petitioning Garth Ennis saying, we really love this world he created. Can we write stories with this world? And Garth Ennis says, okay, as long as you don't touch my characters, I'll let you guys continue it. And periodically he comes back and writes some new stories. So like for the when it became a main series and not just a bunch of mini-series, he wrote the first 3 issues, which we're going to read now.
The thing that I find so interesting about this is I feel like we always have this argument on the show of, is it better to have the contained or the ongoing? Like, is continuity better or worse? And I feel like this kind of does... Now, let me set the record straight. I do not like this book all that much. But I find the concept really interesting where you're allowed to play in a world, but each writer has their own characters. And I feel like that is a nice balance between, like, one writer retconning everything and changing, like, Captain America's a Nazi now and all this kind of stuff, versus the, like, I would really love to see more of, like, I don't know, like the Sweet Tooth
More
characters.
spins on the Cross universe, like, say, from Alan Moore, who did write for this series.
Oh yeah, Alan Moore wrote for this. A lot of great writers wrote for this.
I think it depends on the world for me. I mean, it was something like, I would say the series that George R.R. Martin edits, the Wild Card series. I like having lots of different vaguely connected stories within it. But like for something post-apocalyptic, I prefer like an ongoing, how are they rebuilding society sort of story. Like little one-offs in a post-apocalyptic universe just don't catch me.
Are you a big fan of The Walking Dead?
I've never actually read The Walking Dead.
Well, I'm just curious because like that seems like the will be the divide here. Because right. I like The Walking Dead fine, but I really love the anthology approach to this series. But like this is how I like horror. I like horror stories with a great twist at the end and everything comes full together, and the characters all are risk of dying. I love that kind of stuff.
And I like The Walking Dead a lot.
That makes more sense for you to enjoy it since you're like. It is the one-off. There is like no one safe, and you're waiting to see what's done with this tale rather than an ongoing thing where it's like, well, people have to live because you have to keep making a comic.
Exactly.
And one thing I am going to put you on blast right now, Sylvester.
Do it. Always do it. Never
I
not.
have always said that Garth Ennis was a step above all the other shitlords that we have read for the show. And you've been like, no, that's just because you're an idiot. You have bad taste. And I've been like, Preacher's amazing. And you have not read Preacher, and you shame me for it all the time. And now you're like, no, Garth Ennis is great. Crossed is so great. So you know what? Fuck you, Sly. You're a piece
In my
of
defense,
shit.
and you can roll the tape back on this. During The Boys, I said you could tell this writer writes good character moments. He just has these shitlord tendencies. And my other excuse is that I'm trying to troll you, and I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. I went too far.
When you said, let's do Crossed, I was like, oh, okay. And then you were like, you'll probably like it, though, because you like fucking Preacher.
Yeah.
It's like, you keep using the I'm trolling you like Trump uses the it was a joke.
I do. I know. And like, I realize like I go too far, and I'm like, oops.
Where does ironic Sly end?
Yeah.
I was being ironic. Exactly.
So I am airing my grievances. Preacher rules, and it's better than Crossed. Fuck you, Sly.
I still need to read Preacher. The only Garth Ennis I've read so far is Volume 1 of The Boys, and fuck you guys because I read it because it was on this podcast. And
why did you read it? Why?
I know. Why did I read it? That's a really good question.
Did you read it before the episode or after?
Before, cause I got it for free in a Humble Bundle, so I'm like, oh, I'll just read this before, and then I also... I need to rewind a little bit. I read Crossed when I was at work, which was a really bad idea. And I also read The Boys while I was at work, which was bad. I mostly read comics at work. But anyway, the only other Garth Ennis I've read is the Punisher Max series, which I thought was actually really good.
Yeah, I think Punisher Max is pretty good.
Yeah. And also, you should. I will read The Preacher because Cross converted me. I was crossed
so
by the series.
But... I like the idea of Michael getting The Boys from a Humble Bundle and then hating it so much that he goes to the charity and steals the money back.
Refund?
Yeah. No, like physically goes there and is like, I want this, ACLU.
I pull off a heist to get the money back. Yeah. I want my 50 cents back.
Okay,
right, so let's get to this actual
this came out in like 2013 or something? The part we're doing?
The one we're doing came out around 2013.
Okay. And who does the...
Too late. That is too late for how dumb the story is.
And who did the art?
That's a good question.
I didn't write it down.
Jack and Burroughs?
Okay.
I think.
Sure.
I think. He's
Jason
the only
Burroughs,
other name on the cover. Yeah,
okay.
Jason.
Jason Burroughs is the most associated artist with Cross. He was co-artist, co-creator. And I really like his style. He reminds me a lot of Dylan from... Ennis's old stuff, like very realistic, it suits Ennis's style a lot.
Ennis and Dylan are like one of those teams that like get talked about as a team a lot. And I just think that style works really well with Ennis's style.
It does. I have no complaints about the art.
Yeah, this is another case of where you have a great artist working on a story. They deserve better.
I'm pretty in the middle about this, so I want Darryl to convince me this book is terrible and Sly to convince me it's great.
Let's begin the story.
Okay, let's begin the story. Okay, so the story opens with two guys, Rob and Alec. They're discussing getting some fish from a stream, and one guy saying maybe we should use a grenade and toss a grenade, make the fish all fly out.
These guys are obviously idiots right away. Because they're like, let's shoot the fish, and they're like, that's too noisy. He's like, let's just use grenades instead.
Yeah, I want Scampi.
And so the hero of the story, or hero, quote unquote, protagonist.
The main character, the
Yeah. The protagonist, I should say, Ian, he's like nearby and he's listening to them talk like idiots. And he notes that, because they say, oh, we only have 2 grenades. He says, no, we have a 3rd grenade, but I'm saving the 3rd one for myself. Like, that's my out.
That's my secret grenade.
Yeah. So here we meet the cast as they're walking. There's Anya, who is pregnant, and she's with her brother Mark.
Ugh.
There's
Okay,
Ian.
no, it's not the brother is not the dad, for the record.
Oh, yeah.
No.
I expected it because it's, a super edgelord book, but they
Yeah,
say
me
that
too.
her boyfriend was just killed, and
Yeah.
her brother's the only one she has left.
Right,
Exactly.
and they talk about how they're putting a lot of hope into the baby, like
Yeah.
a proper post-apocalyptic story. They
Yeah.
put all their hope into
The future.
the future and new life.
And that's something Cross does a lot, especially with Garth Ennis' stories. He always brings up like other tropes from other post-apocalyptic stories, like Children of Men, like the babies are redemption, babies this and that, and make arguments like that's fucking bullshit. Like in the first Cross series, a character's trying to figure out how to kill the monsters. Like, oh, what's their weakness? And everyone's saying it's not a fucking horror movie. Like these are just humans trying to kill us. So like it's like this, it has that an element of like always alluding that this is not like your story where things are going to end on a happy note in any way, shape,
Well,
or form.
that's certainly true.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the ways that it does sort of deconstruct other zombie or post-apocalyptic stories.
Yeah. So there's one character who has bandages over his face, and he has an assault rifle.
My
and
favorite.
He claims he's Prince Harry,
Yeah.
which I think is a really cool character concept.
Right, and there's a nice moment where they talk about the story he told and how it paints a picture of the Queen Mum chewing the bollocks off of
Yes.
Prince William.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Me too.
I do really like this idea, even though I didn't need to think of the queen eating her son's
I did.
nuts or whatever.
That's the only part I liked.
But I do like the idea of, in a post-apocalyptic world, like, what happens to celebrities?
Yeah.
Like, and if you get, like, mauled, that's, like, you can't, oh, I'm Tom Cruise. Like, no, you're not. But, like, what happens then? That's a really interesting idea that I don't think I've ever seen explored before.
Yeah.
It was explored in Zombieland with Bill Murray.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
Ryan.
true. That's
yeah.
true.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point.
I just made you look embarrassed, huh?
No, that's a movie I've
Fool
seen.
you are, Ryan.
That's a movie I've
The
actually
one movie
seen,
Ryan has
too.
seen, he didn't fucking remember it.
Yeah, but no,
But-
you're right. So I haven't seen this idea used more than one time.
So John is the oldest one, and Ricky is the medic, and Pat is a fat, useless piece of shit, according to Ian.
Fat, useless prick. Get it right.
But, sorry. So after they stop for camp, Ian flashbacks to before he left the city when he was swarmed by Cross. His wife Penny basically.
This is when
Yeah.
you really see the edgelord because
Oh, yeah.
baby explodes.
I told
boy.
Michael this is gonna happen.
I do appreciate the heads up, Sly.
Because we picked a story and then we're like, who are we picking as a guest host? And I was like, we didn't pick this book as a signal to Michael what we think of him. we picked it first and we
You know
warned
who
him in
loves
advance.
infanticide? Michael.
So what happens is, as they're crossing across this highway, there's like all this grisly scene of like people being thrown out of cars, heads being splattered, and this woman's just driving and she just chucks a baby out, and it shows a frame of the baby exploding all over Ian's wife, and then it shows the baby corpse, and I was like,
Right.
wow, is this book really just trying to be
And,
as crazy
That's
as it
when
can be?
I'm really conflicted about the art style because it is so well drawn in just excruciating detail.
Yeah. So I think at this point it's important to note visually what being crossed means.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
good
when
point.
you get like a zombie's blood on you, you get like a blood T on your face, like a cross.
It's more like hives.
yeah,
on
it's like
your
hives. You
face.
break out hives that form a cross on your face.
Yeah, and like you also get bad teeth immediately.
Well, maybe it's because that's because they're in Britain. Maybe that's the reason for that.
Oh, actually, I believe they say Glasgow. Isn't that Scotland?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the Highlands.
Oh, so that stereotype not extended there? I don't know my stereotypes.
Yeah.
Right, and did we discuss the reason why they're walking through the Highlands? Because they're trying to wear out all of the cross.
Yeah, they're trying to head north, so through the snow, because they believe the zombies will all die off. But before we get to that, we should say that after Penny was covered with crossed baby blood, because the baby is clearly crossed with the rashes on his face, she jumps in front of a car and kills herself.
Yeah.
And Ian remarks how she was a very pure soul and stuff like that, and how he loved her.
He also remarks that he cheated on her and she took him back. More cuckolding, thanks, Sly.
Yeah. And that's not the only cuckold we're doing tonight.
Yeah, there's more cuckolding. There's a lot more.
I might do some cuckolding tonight. You don't know.
Let's all cuckold tonight.
It's an edgelord story. You gotta have it. Like, Garth Ennis is checking off the check marks.
I feel like Falling in Love Montage has their tampon checklist. We should have an edgelord checklist.
So they notice that the cross are following them towards the north, and they don't have enough bullets to kill them all. And so there's a group of 3 that's around him, and Alec, one of the dumb ones, he uses rocks to confuse the group. And
Can you describe these 3 crossed guys? Sly?
One of them has
they're all naked.
One of them's a woman. She's like the matriarch. She has huge sagging breasts.
With a skull codpiece.
Yeah,
Cod pieces. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Sly, I could just picture it. It's so sensual.
And there's 2 old men with her with their dongs hanging out, and one of them has a bra and like a bowler hat.
And they're all chanting "cunty bollocks."
Yes.
So they taunt these guys to first they taunt to attack each other, and then they taunt them, the one matriarch, the only surviving one, to follow Alec taunts her to jump into the river, and then Ian, to make sure she's dead, and there's one of the other ones, make sure she drowns in the river.
By holding her face down with his boot into the water.
Mm-hmm. And how he enjoys the pleasure of feeling her teeth break beneath his boot.
Exactly.
Yeah, and not to get too technical, but one of the things I like about this visually is the lettering for the cross. It's like red and like almost like dripping blood kind of letters, and it just gives this unease. And
even the lettering kind of reflects that too. The word bubbles reflect that too. Yeah, like it's all distorted.
Yeah.
So also, the story ends with him, Ian, thinking about how he betrayed Penny, but he also thinks about how he might see her in the afterlife, and they have a really nice line where he says, "I have no more illusions left about this world. You might allow me one or two about the next." So like he still has some hope that he might see Penny in the afterlife, even though he's not a religious guy.
Mm-hmm. So that's the first issue. What did you guys think so far? Darryl, you go first. Were you hooked? Or did it make you cross?
The thing is, more than the boys I could like see with this, where it's like Garth Ennis is a good writer, clearly, but it's like out of this issue, what I'm gonna remember most is the naked people and a baby being thrown out the window. It's like, which I think is like the edgelord way. They get you hooked with that kind of grossness.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And they're like, see, but you remember it. Now you're gonna remember. You'll be interested in reading the rest of the story. But I mean, I wouldn't have read the rest of the story unless I was on this podcast.
Unless I was forced to by Sly.
Because I would have read that stuff. I would have been like, too gross. Like, this is unnecessary.
What about you, Michael? Were you hooked?
No, by no means. And it's one of those things that I don't mind, and I'll talk about this more at the end, but I mean, I don't mind edgelordy stuff in general, but there is that point of excess where it's like you're not doing this for the story, you're just doing this to escalate to absurd points. And so it was more, I was just rolling my eyes at a baby corpse. It's just like, okay, yeah.
There's a very fair point, but I will offer a defense of the excess score.
Well, because when Penny turns, it's like there's no reason why it has to be an exploding baby. Like, it's not like that baby's a character or the mom's a character.
Did you just say? Did you just say it does have to be an exploding baby?
No, I said it doesn't.
No, Sly.
I will justify my thoughts on excess score at the end.
Oh my god.
All of our listeners know that Sly is an edgelord. That's like
I am an edgelord. Like I defended Lobo's Christmas Carol.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
EDGELORD August is your month.
My month to shine. I don't mind. Like I don't mind EDGELORD as long as it's not like shitty like Mark Millar. That's my problem.
See, I enjoy it more because I'm like, this guy's an idiot rather than we talked about this before.
Yeah, we talked about this enough time. People know our thoughts. It's done. Right, issue 2.
Yeah, volume 1 not great. issue 1, not great.
Yeah.
Issue 2, turns out Pat, the fat, useless prick, has been stealing food. So they slice his ankles so he can't walk anymore.
Yeah, they hamstring him.
This is like what they do between each issue is that they jump ahead like a certain amount of days. So you're immediately thrown into like the middle of a escalation.
And he says like, "Are you just going to tie me up here and leave me there?" They're like, "No, we don't want to waste the rope." So they slice his Achilles tendons and just like leave him there as bait for the zombies.
Right, because they want to slow down all of the cross.
Yeah, it's like for some reason I was fine with issue 1. This ankle slice like really skeeves me out.
Yeah, that was
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
This is where I was like, this is a cool thing. I'm on board with this.
Well, and I mean, I think that scene probably, was probably the most kind of important moment of this like 3-issue set as far as like cementing the point it was getting at about like how, who the real monster is here. The depths one would go to survive.
Yeah, and this is when we start to see Ian, our protagonist, like, really, I don't care about anybody but surviving. Like, that's it.
Yep, surviving's my favorite person.
Anya, the pregnant woman, she notes that Ian did it so casually that he must have done it before. And Ian flashbacks to, he didn't slice someone's legs before, but he did. He was with a previous group of people, and that group of people basically, there was all these alpha males basically argue with each other. And, these 3 alpha males basically dominating the group, and everyone else was being passive. And he felt like this group is going to die. Like, this group is fucked. So he basically, while they weren't looking, he took a bunch of supplies and he walked out.
The thing that I really like about this scene is, in like every zombie story, there's always like this core group that like get along really well, and then there's like the bad guy. And I really like here that there's 3 of these like who would normally be the protagonist in a zombie story, or like they all have very different ideas. Like one's like, we have to go right away, and one's like, no, we have supplies here. Or like, I don't remember what the exact argument is, but in the real world, like, humans in a crisis can't all come together and make decisions at all. Exactly. Like, this seemed really, really insightful to me. And also, one of them makes some racist remark, and Ian thinks to himself, this here now? And then he says, of course, that everywhere, always. And that
was a good line.
The thing that I like about the parts of this book that I like is that I feel like it has a much more realistic view on humanity than other zombie stories, where I actually felt like these people would do this. Like, this is who would win, these pieces of garbage.
Yeah.
Another thing I like about it, too, is that a woman ends up approaching him, and she has 2 boys, and she ends up, like, asking him if he's okay, and he tells her, like, I'm going to get out of here. You and your boys can come with me if you want, but you have to make that decision, like, right now, are you going to stay? And so she decides to stay. And it's... because a lot of times when people make drifter characters, they're always just like, I'm alone now forever. By like here, he's still extending out. Like, he's not a monster. He won't just leave people behind willy-nilly. Like, he'll take them with him if they want to go. But it's clear that he's more concerned about being alive than staying with a group.
But even when he says that, he's like, if you and your boys want to come, and she goes like, what about these other 2 people? And he's like, they will only slow us down. We are leaving them behind.
They're too old.
Yeah. And like, he seems much more pragmatic about it.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. He's like all about survival. Yeah. And to emphasize that point, as they're walking, Anya shows more signs of pregnancy, and as he does so, he says like, as she shows every time the baby kicks something like that, he's like ready to bolt at any moment. Like, he's thinking like the baby, because not only are she gonna have to stop to deliver the baby, but then she's gonna be weak for days, and are they gonna wait for her? Like, the zombies are gonna catch up to them. So he's like, he's wondering if he should ditch this group as well.
And this is one thing like the Walking Dead TV show doesn't really address ever, is having a baby in a zombie apocalypse is the worst thing you could have.
Yeah. And so they find the crashed plane, and the medic Ricky says this is a good place to have the baby. And as they're in this plane, Ian says, okay, fuck it, I'm going to just tell everyone we should ditch Anya, leave the baby behind, and and everyone's like, are you fucking crazy? Like, Mark, her brother, is like, you're just as bad as the Cross. We should leave you out there with them. And Ian's like, hear me out. Let's put it to a vote. And he loses the vote.
He even says, like, if you guys vote and I lose, that's fine. Like, I'll stay. I'll do what the group decides. But I think it's worth talking about. And it's an awkward scene, but it might be my favorite scene in the whole book.
It is a really good scene. And the characters say, like, you think you're going to do this vote and we're going to act like it's normal? Like, you're saying leave my sister behind. Like, fuck you. Like, leave a human being behind.
Right, and that's a good character moment. I mean, I think that's what I always like most in kind of post-apocalyptic zombie stories is the character moments and how people interact with each other. Like, the gore is very much not what I'm there for.
Yeah, agreed.
Not just that too, but it's like the tough decision making. It's like, what would you do in these shoes? Because you are getting slower and the cross don't seem to be slowing down, and the two people leaving you, like, slowing everything down is this girl and her brother.
Yeah.
It's like, would you abandon them to save the rest of the pack?
And the thing that makes the scene so impactful for me is they have the vote, and he even says, like, we have no idea when she's going to go into labor. So it could be in the middle of, like, us running. So we should leave her behind now. They have the vote, and then he loses, so they decide to stay with her. She immediately goes into labor, and then they all wait for the child to be born. And then John comes out, the medic, and just bluntly announces that her and the child both died in childbirth. So, like,
it wasn't John's not the medic. John was just the old guy, and he's the only guy one of the few guys that backs up Ian on his vote, and he goes to check on the medic, and he just comes out bluntly saying, "She's dead, baby's dead. Let's get out of here."
So it's like they have this vote and makes our protagonist look like such a piece of garbage, and if he literally waited like a half hour, it wouldn't even have mattered.
Yeah.
Which I think is just really interesting.
And also the blunt way the baby dies. Like, it's not like a portrayed as a tearful moment. Like, we don't even see the brother's reaction. We don't see anyone's reaction. All we see is John, the guy who voted to leave her behind, saying, "She's dead. Let's go. Let's get the fuck out of here."
At the same time, I feel like if they did make it a big deal, it wouldn't be earned, because we don't know anything about any of these characters at all.
I know that's it's a good scene, but the fact that they go over the blunt route.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that's what makes it work. If they made it, like, if they were trying to pull on my heartstrings, it would be like, what are you doing? Like, you haven't earned this.
It's not the kind of story.
And they had the restraint not to show the dead baby, so... That was
I mean, we already got one in the previous episode.
They already filled the dead baby quota, and they're like, okay, we don't have to...
But don't worry, the Edge returns for the next issue immediately on the first page.
So... by the way, Prince Charles, who dies in his first page, he voted against he voted for the baby, leaving the baby and Anya behind. And Mark, after he does that, Mark says, "I do believe you're Prince Charles now, because only a member of the royal family will make that vote." Fuck you.
Yeah, I like that line.
Yeah, was it Prince Charles or Prince Harry?
I think you're right.
It's Harry.
Yeah. I keep switching.
Whatever. They're not our princes.
Oh, you don't memorize the royal family, Sly? Come on.
Sly doesn't even know the stereotypes of Scotland, so...
Yes. So they got to Prince Harry first.
Rip.
And the problem is, like, Prince Harry had the assault rifle, like the best gun they had. Yeah. And now they're all debating on how to circle back and get it.
I need to mention this because I hate some of the things in this book. So they got to him they sawed him in half with a 2-man saw, and then they all laughed at him as he was trying to crawl through the snow and get away from him.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. But the guys say, like, wow, they really fucking got it. I'm like, holy shit.
I mean, I think that's one of the things that actually kind of bothers me a little bit is, I mean, they go to such lengths, the cross, to kill people. Like, they don't go the easiest route. They go to, like, inventive beyond, like, the normal routes, which I mean, the whole thing is that they're impulsive and they just act on the moment. Like, sawing somebody in half seems like a lot of effort for somebody who doesn't have impulse control.
Like, I would expect them to set up, like, Rube Goldberg machines that end up with, like, your nuts getting stomped by a swinging boot or something.
Yeah.
But so their plan to circle back is to actually split up and then go in, like, a circular direction both ways towards the body.
So basically, like, if you walk down the path and then they circle around, it's like drawing a big dick in the snow.
That's...
Ryan's in my mindset right now.
Ryan's crossed.
Yeah. So Ian is grouped with Mark, the brother, and Ricky, the medic, who both consider him a monster. And Ian talks to John saying, "What the fuck? Like, these guys think I'm a monster. Like you can't pair me with these guys." And John says, "Like, I'm paired with 2 idiots. The guys arguing over fish. Like, they're gonna slow you down. Like, I need to make sure they're safe. You got the better guys, so you go with them." Mm-hmm. And so Ian thinks about how, like, as they're running away from these zombies, it's because the zombies are now tailing them. Ian thinks about how he couldn't be true to his wife, he couldn't be true to anyone. Like, basically, he's thinking, like, I was a horrible human being to my wife. I don't think I can be this human being now. And as he's thinking this, he runs out of ammo, and he's like yelling to Ricky for help, and Ricky stops running and stops to save him, and he thinks like Ricky is actually a good human being. Like Ricky is true. So what excuse do I have to be a shitty human being? Like my justification is that I'm doing stuff for survival, but you have people like Ricky who stop and still try to save people. So I'm like an extra piece of shit.
I mean, at least he realizes it.
Yeah. And so Ricky, unfortunately, the decent human being, gets punished for his kindness and falls off a ledge and gets swarmed by Cross.
Yep, and he keeps telling him just like run and reload your gun.
Yeah.
To go back to what Michael said, usually these edgelord characters constantly think, I'm the coolest guy in the world. Look how awesome I am. And at least Ian's like, I'm shitty. Like, I suck.
The self-reflection is an interesting character.
Yeah, it's necessary, I think, in like a story like this.
You love Nemesis, Darryl.
Right, but nothing interesting happens to Ricky, right? Like, he just falls off the cliff and they just kill him and nothing of note happens, right?
Yeah.
Now Ian is only with Mark, the brother of the girl he said we should leave behind. And they can finally get visual on the gun, but they see not only the fat useless prick Pat, they got to him, and they're wearing his skin as a coat. But now they're parading around Anya's corpse.
Yeah, she's on his back like Yoda.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point, even with the one arm.
But what happens now is Ian is like, holy shit, I have to go fucking rescue her. Like, this fucked up piece of shit. Kill them all.
No, Mark
is
brother.
Mark is that, sorry. And Ian's like, no way, you have to be rational about this. And Mark is like, fuck you, Ian. You want me to leave behind my sister. So he takes a gun and shoots Ian in the ear. And Ian just fucking runs. And as he's running, he's like saying, hey, Mark, kill yourself right now. Do it. He's running away. Like,
yeah, save me. Kill yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, and then here it is. What happens to Mark?
Yeah, so Ian was telling Mark to kill himself, not to be a dick, but like the cross are right on top of you, and they are. And one of the cross women sits on Mark's face with her vagina in his face and says, "Eat me, eat me,
eat me!" And it
super
shows a
gross.
zoom in of his face with her pubes all over it.
Oh, she has this, like...
Oh, and she has like just an absurd amount of pubic hair, like beyond a natural amount of pubic hair, because they just have to make it like extra awful in every.
I mean,
and this was the
she's
moment
overweight, so naturally she's gonna be super
it's gotta
gross.
Be awful. Yeah. And this is also the moment when I was at work that I hit Alt Tab really, really fast to switch to another window and looked around to make sure nobody was looking.
Yeah.
And this
it's just like.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that for some reason, like, when you're cross, not only are all your inhibitions limited, but also all, like, your hormonal inhibitions. So, like, you have just hair growing really, like the Santa Claus.
There's one story. There's one story where the crossed are all talking about how they want to fuck a horse, and as they're all killing this horse, they're like, maybe we should punch more holes at this horse so we can have more holes to fuck.
So you are never allowed to judge me for liking anything ever again, you piece of garbage.
Oh my god.
But I do want to hear your artistic defense. Of
I don't. I know it's trash.
Holes in the horse.
I will at the end. So Ian finally is the one that gets to the gun, and he starts picking off all the zombies with the assault rifle.
Because one thing they point out earlier is because of the snow, and because they never slow down, they're always going at like 100%.
Yeah.
They like don't have the energy to keep going, so it's not like zombie physics where they like walk and it doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that this is fully scientifically sound, but like they say, like because they don't eat and they don't think like, what's the best way to go up this mountain? They just run. They're like tired and just dropping now.
Yeah. So he's picking them off one by one, and one of them, the last one, runs up to him with a shotgun, and Ian kills him, but right before he dies, the guy with the shotgun shoots Prince Harry's corpse, and the blood splatters all over him, over Ian. So Ian is like, okay, I'm across, I need to get this grenade to kill myself, but now he realizes, like, he thinks about now he has, about how Penny looked at him when he betrayed her, and he's thinking about how he'll have to confront her again after all the shit he's done, and he can't pull the pin, and he's yelling to himself.
The narration boxes are all that's left is seeing Penny again. Penny, who I loved, who I idealized, who hated me with cold black passion and told me so the day she found out I betrayed her. I make
Yeah.
my voice hers by no, it's really mine. Come on, you asshole, pull the fucking pin.
And the final scene is John puts his hand on Ian's shoulder, and you can see John, Ricky, all of them are all across.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah.
The ending's pretty cool. It's like a
Yeah.
very like, I don't want to say like a Twilight Zone because it's not really a twist, but it's like eerie how
Yeah.
they're not attacking him at all. Like they're just
Yeah.
like, you're already crossed without us
Basically,
without
yeah.
having to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess you can see the benefit of these being shorter stories when you have it wrapped up really, tightly in just 3 issues.
Yeah.
It's a pretty satisfying ending.
And
I think it's very chilling.
there were none of these characters that I was like, can't wait to see what happens next, even if they did survive.
Oh, I wanted more of Pat. I wanted to see all of Pat's adventures. I hope we get that Pat prequel someday.
It's DLC. It's in the next Humble Bundle.
So now we're going into a special by Simon Spurrier, who is one of my favorite comic writers.
Simon Spurrier is amazing.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I liked this one more than the other stories.
That's actually really cool because Spurrier writes more of Cross than Garth Ennis does by the end.
I feel like Darryl's about to challenge me here because he.
I know. I'm
here's
saying,
the thing.
oh yeah.
Here's the disclaimer. Darryl doesn't know how to read.
Oh, that's right. You
an
didn't read
instant
this one.
message.
That's right.
And didn't read this book. He read a
That's
different
right.
one that he hated.
Yeah, I did. I read a whole separate Cross special, and it was so bad. It was people in prison, and there was so much rape, so much cussing, and at one point there's a severed head with a knife stuck to a severed head stuck in the wall, and in his mouth is a severed dick, and it's like this is the
All
perfect
right.
analogy for how I felt reading it.
That sounds awesome. We should have done that instead.
That was one. I read that story and I was like, because the problem with Cross series is that it fluctuates. The quality does fluctuate with each writer. I want to show that there's the writers like that writer who just go for the gore, and some people actually like that. I checked the Amazon reviews for some of those stories, and people say, "I hate this Garth Ennis shit, this Simon Spurrier shit, this Alan Moore shit. This is what I want.
Yeah.
I want the gore. I want to
Who
see
wrote that
blood
one?
everywhere." What?
Who wrote that one? Do you know?
I was like, it's a no-name writer. Like I never heard of him
I'll
before.
get it. I have the.
So anyway, well, we're not even talking about that story, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's
No, I
transition
read
to
the
the
whole
actual
story.
stuff.
Let's talk.
No.
So, dear listeners, Darryl will be learning about the story as you do.
Yeah.
Real quick, it was Justin Jordan that wrote it.
Yeah, I never heard of him.
Yeah,
So
that doesn't sound too familiar.
Yeah, this story is structured. The narrators all kind of talk to the reader. Like it's kind of like a reality show where they give their thoughts as events are happening, which I think is a very interesting narrative structure. And it kind of sets it up that this is more of a comedic not like ha ha, it's funny. It's like black comedy. Like there's
Right.
a black comedy element to this.
And it definitely, the whole like talking back in, like I couldn't imagine the first story having that framing device.
No.
And this one, like it does give it this like slightly less taking itself seriously kind of
Exactly. So the story is there's a fat trucker named Todd riding around this big fuck off truck, and
What is a
He
big
ta-
fuck off? Truck?
Yeah. You need to paint a picture for me, Sly.
Well, these are real trucks because it's in Australia, and so he was one of those long haul truckers that go across Australia with those huge train trucks. I'm not sure
Yeah.
exactly what they're called.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, it's a real thing. These huge cargo trucks that they run across the desert.
yeah. So there's a fat trucker named Todd, and he's like a disgusting piece of shit. Like every page he's burping and farting and shit like that. And he says he talks about obviously if any change, the new status quo, if any change, the new status quo, no matter how terrible, will be more favorable to certain people. Hero types would say it's unfair he gets to thrive in this future, but it's just evolution. And he says it ain't magic, but it looks like it from a distance.
And I have to say, I find this character fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
he's very intelligent. I mean, in a sense.
well, apparently what happens is he's like this dumb idiot guy, but in the apocalypse, his truck was shipping all these like science textbooks on tape. So he just drives around this apocalyptic world and listens to science textbooks all the time.
And it's all nature, nature. So it's biology and nature, and so he knows lots about biology and evolution, and it just really informs his entire worldview.
So he says all this dumb shit, but then he'll be like, well, in nature, when there's evolution, the point is to be as genetically diverse as possible, and then you could be disadvantageous in one habitat and advantageous in another. And I'm like, I mean, that is how it works.
Yeah. And he has lots of very specific examples of different animals in nature and their forms of adapting to their environment.
Yeah.
Guys, I think I love Todd.
So, we'll get to what the kind of guy Todd is, but so the other two leads in the story are. I should clarify. This is taking place in Australia in the outback. Mm-hmm. The other two leads are Daphne and David. David is kind of like a bushman, like a Crocodile Dundee hunter man type, but he clarifies like he's a very modern guy, but he likes hunting. And Daphne says like I'm reliant, and that's okay. I'm lucky to have have been dating a guy like David who can survive in this wilderness. But as they're talking and narrating their events, they're all being swarmed by Cross, and David runs out of bullets, so they're like, "Oh, we're fucked." That's where Todd comes in.
And Daphne thinks to herself like, I love to rely on David, but whoever we have to rely on will do it, because like you have to trust people, otherwise you'll just end up alone and dead.
Mm-hmm. And she says like no matter who you rely on, you'll always be alone at the end. So like. David's protecting her, but like David will probably be the first to die, and then she'll be alone. But by the end of the day, you're gonna be alone when it's your time to go. So Todd shows up. He runs over the Cross, and he is willing to take in Daphne, but not David, because his truck is literally a fuck off truck because he has a bunch of women in his truck who they're in exchange for driving them around and for protecting them and stuff like that and giving them food and everything, he gets to have sex with them and populate the next species of humanity.
Because he wants to spread his genes as much as possible.
Little Todds.
Yeah. But the thing that's weird about this and interesting is David's like, oh, so what is this, like a rape train? And he's like, I never rape anybody. I don't even ask for it. Just sooner or later, they come in and do it. And it's like, he's like, but they're living in fear. And like that's kind of just rape, and he's like,
right,
no,
they
never have to.
David does explain that there are other forms of rape. It doesn't have to be you forcing yourself on someone. It can be by situation, which it is. I mean, it is situational rape that Todd is participating in, and I appreciate that level of nuance that the writer was looking at. Here's more gray cases.
Did he even acknowledges it?
Yeah. And the thing that I find so interesting is he's like, I'll take women with me for months and they won't have sex with me, and that's fine. But sooner or later they come around. And like, it's weird.
Yeah, it's
like,
the implication.
Yeah. It is. But it's weird in a way that is definitely unique in this story. It's not like, because when he pulled up and he's like, this is all my women, this is how I'm repopulating the earth, I'm like, I've read this story a million times.
Yeah. But then it really plays with your expectations in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. But it is still a fuck train.
But then I feel like it kind of burned off some goodwill with the next part, which I'm sure Sly will talk about.
Yeah. So he says Daphne can come on the train, but David can't because he's competition, like basically a male competitor. He's like, get the fuck off my train. And Daphne's like, no. He's really useful. He's very this. And Todd's like, whatever, I don't give a shit. And she's like, he's also gay. He's extremely fucking gay. And Todd's like, well, if he's so gay, he won't mind sucking my dick.
God. Oh no!
And he takes his dick out, and David, it's this view of the camera's like to the side, so you don't see the dick, but it like zooms in on David, and his mouth is like wide open, like he's about to suck a dick, and he's just like, I'll do anything for Daphne, and it's like, oh, what?
Wow.
But then Todd's like, I was just fucking kidding. Get the fuck in the truck.
Yeah, and it's weird.
So he takes him in because he was going to, but didn't?
Yeah, because he's like, I'm not gay. I don't want you to suck my dick, but I was testing you to make sure you would.
Yeah.
I'll take you along anyway.
Oh, my God.
But Todd in the narration, he says, like, Todd ain't a stupid fella. I know they're lying to me. And he says, but this guy, he's a beta cuck. I'm going to cuckold his wife, basically.
Yeah,
Have we talked about the text boxes when they're thinking or talking? how Todd's text box has an alpha symbol on it, and David's text box has a beta
I
symbol
didn't
on
even
it.
notice
Really?
that.
And then Daphne's text box has the Venus symbol on it.
I noticed the Venus one, but I just somehow didn't
Oh
notice
my
the
God.
alpha. and
It's the
beta.
Greek letters for alpha and beta.
Can I leave? Can I leave this? I don't need to be here, actually.
So eventually, what happens is Daphne eventually does have sex with Todd.
Oh, of course.
And David's like, "Why'd you do it?" And Daphne says, "Because I'm pregnant with your child, and Todd's going to find out you're not gay, and then we're fucked. So I did it to protect us."
And the thing that's interesting here, aside from the absolutely engaging plot that we're in the middle of, but Daphne does, when she first goes in there, Todd's like, "Oh, I expected you way later than this. Like, this is quick." And he goes, "Now, this is too quick. You definitely have an ulterior motive." And he points out that he's like, "Oh, you looking for the keys?"
Oh, yeah.
And he says he has it hidden in a combination lock that he wears on his wrist that only he knows the combo to. So he's like, "So, you can't have the keys. You could leave, or you could still have sex with me." And she has sex with him. And it's like, every time, the first few times she has sex with him, spoilers, it's more, it's always like doggy or like totally from behind. And it's in this like, really, like, the power dynamic is very apparent here.
And he's burping and farting
Oh yeah,
all the time
he's
too.
super gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Shock and surprise. He's super gross.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, interesting thing, one of the Todd's other women, she goes up to David and saying, "You and your woman better get the fuck out of here. We know what you guys are doing. You better get the fuck out." And she's not saying it for their own good. She's saying, like, I worked hard for this position. Like, like, basically, like, I'm the alpha woman here. Like, I'm Todd's favorite. Because if you do treat Todd right, like, he rewards you with all these different things. And she's like, "You better get the fuck out." And basically, during the next cross raid, David unexpectedly just takes a gun and shoots this woman right in the head. Because he's like, "I can't have her risk her outing us, and I can't risk her endangering Daphne." So he kills her and blames on the cross. Oh yeah, the cross killed that woman.
He also does think multiple times to himself, "This guy's having sex with my wife," which is definitely why Sly picked this fucking book.
I'm a cuck. This is my favorite of the Simon Spurrier specials I read, but this is the one that's the most you guys would have wanted to have read, so I picked it.
God damn.
So, during the whole story, David talks about his Bushman experiences and how he was taught by the Aboriginal Australian people, like the black people there, and they taught him how to.
That's one way to put it, Sly.
I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's
Just the
Aborigines
Aborigines.
is sufficient.
does everyone know how Aborigines are? I don't know. Yeah. But they taught him how you have to. You don't think, just feel. And David keeps repeating his mantra: "Don't think, just feel." Whenever you're fighting for survival, and they meet like a tribe of all these Bushmen yuppies like David, and one of the Aboriginal guys says, "I teach them all this bullshit, like all these dumb white people. I teach them all this bullshit. Like don't think."
Yes,
just
I
feel."
love that.
It's so great.
Yeah, the Aborigine guy he's got this hustle going, and all these white guys who are just terrified, and he's just feeding them these lines.
Yeah.
And of course they're all they're meeting up with him at Uluru because it's the outback.
Now, also, Todd is like, "Maybe I should leave Dave here with these other yuppies, but this guy will definitely track me down. He definitely seems like the kind of guy that would track down anyone that fucks his wife. Also, I can't let this guy live. He was gonna suck me off, and I hate guys that suck off other guys." God. Oh, God, it was so gross.
You know what? I don't think this Todd guy was very nice.
So Dave, like overnight, like Daphne is like more and more like getting perturbed. David comes to her and says, "Don't worry, Daphne, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy. I'm gonna fucking kill him." And Todd finally comes out and says, "I fucking hear you out."
Stop hitting your microphone.
I'm like holding my hand behind my back now. Todd's like, "I fucking hear you fucking dick," and he hits Todd in the back of the head, knocks him out.
No,
And the
Todd
next-
hits.
Todd hits David. Sorry,
Yeah.
Todd hits David. Sorry. And Daphne passes out from this because she says, "I'm sorry, I'm reliant, I'm weak. I passed out from it. I'm sorry," to the audience. And when she wakes up, Todd is dumped. They wait for her to wake up so she can watch it. They dump Todd off the truck for rock.
David off the truck.
What?
David off the truck.
Oh, David. Sorry.
I'm trying to follow this story.
I'm so sorry. They throw David off the truck with a rock attached to him, and the cross all swarm around him, and David's fucked. And also, she passes out again, just seeing this. And when she wakes up, she finds out that they aborted her baby.
Oh,
Did they? I thought that she just lost it.
She says she doesn't know how it happened, but she doesn't know if they punched him. She says, like, I don't know if they punched me or if they fed me something, but the baby's gone. Whatever
She
happened, the
also
baby's
said
gone.
it could have just been the trauma of what happened.
Yeah.
But the reason why I didn't think they aborted it is because Todd says, like, oh, that's a shame, but I'll put another one in you soon.
Oh, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe I misread that.
But
No.
it's left ambiguous.
Todd definitely did not. He knew where that baby was from.
Yeah, like,
yeah,
he knew
knowing
from the
this
beginning.
story,
Heavily
come on.
implied.
Oh, that's a shame. You lost your child.
I mean, you want to give this story the benefit of the doubt that they wouldn't have infanticide in it, but
Crossed above infanticide?
Todd seems like a straight shooter. I don't know.
Yeah. But so now, Daphne, after what happened to David, she basically starts becoming like that woman that David shot before. Like, really competitive. Like, she's trying to be getting Todd's good side. She's having sex with him regularly now. She's being aggressive with all the other women.
Not
She's
just
keeping
regularly.
online.
Like, first it's once a week, then it's every night.
Yeah. And she becomes so aggressive that Todd gives her a nickname. She calls her the Scorcher. And 5 months this go by.
That's a long time.
Yeah. And then one day they're on the truck, and Daphne just takes her gun and shoots Todd's legs out. And Todd's like, "What the fuck? What are you doing this for?" And she says, like, "You know what? I've been having sex with you. I've been basically trying out every single possible combination for that safe, and now I figured it out, so I don't need you
Yeah,
anymore."
'cause she says it's a 4-digit combo. What is that? Like 1,000 possibilities or whatever. And she's like, yeah, and it takes a couple seconds to do each one, and you pass out right after you come every time.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then she opens it, and it's. I kind of thought this was awesome.
She says, like, "I know my David. He's a survivor. He'll find me." And she has it right. So David, as a crossed, basically went to all that yuppie tribe, infected all those yuppies, and now a whole army of white yuppies come and swarm the cross thing and basically run to attack Todd. And Todd's like bitching, like, it ain't fair. Like he was saying before, like, oh, you might think it's not fair, but this is the natural state of things. And he's like crying to Daphne as she drives off, saying it ain't fair. And she gives a final narration saying, basically repeating his monologue, saying, some people are better adapted to survive circumstances than others. It's just evolution, ain't magic, but from a distance it sure looks like magic. And end the story.
then she throws one of the nature tapes out the window, and you see it in close-up flying out.
That was the worst part for me, because I thought that was a cool thing, and now she's never going to learn anything.
Yeah, why don't you better yourself, huh?
Yeah,
Come on,
for
Daphne.
once.
Maybe she just really hates, maybe she's a creationist. Yeah,
I think she bet herself enough during the course of the story, by the way.
Sly, there's more to life than just strength.
Wow, I
You
can't
need
believe I
wisdom,
missed an
too.
actual cuckolding story.
Yeah, it was a good story.
Okay,
All right, so final thoughts. I think I know you guys' thoughts, but you could just go one by one. First guest host, Michael.
All right, so...
would you read more of this?
No, God, no. I would not. I mean, I liked the special, kind of. I mean, I think it was more character-focused. I think it had more of an interesting thought. I think you could tell that the writer was giving a lot of subtlety into the story. I mean, was really thinking about, those roles in nature and if they're, legitimate or not. And I think he kind of undercut the idea that humans are like animals. I mean, I think he kind of, said that humans are more than that, which I appreciated. Mm-hmm. The other three were pretty much trash. I didn't care for them. I kind of want to compare it to I am a big fan of Cormac McCarthy, who is kind of a literary edgelord.
He is. Yeah.
His novel Blood Meridian, or An Evening of Redness in the West, I think it goes over a pretty similar theme of, the savagery of humanity and that line between man and animal and the darkness within people and all that. And it has baby murder.
Your favorite.
But I think it explores... Yeah.
Motherfucker, Michael.
That's why you got me in on the show. I mean, I think so. I mean, it's not that I'm shocked by the content because all of that is within a Cormac McCarthy novel too, but I think it's just explored so much better in something like Blood Meridian than it is in this. So don't walk to your local library and check out Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy for a better look at Baby.
I actually would do that because I haven't read Blood Meridian, but I like a lot of Cormac McCarthy's stuff.
I think you'd like Blood Meridian. It's probably his best.
Especially if I like this shit, right?
Yeah.
So what about you, Darryl?
I feel like there's good ideas in here, but it's just like, it's too gratuitous. It's too over the top at times. It really needed to tone back if it wanted to be a cool story. And one of my biggest problem with The Crossed is, like, there was no reason for it to be, at least that I could see, no reason for it to be more than zombies. Like, it could have worked exactly the same as a zombie story because it had all the same things. It's just that they wanted crazier things to happen when they became crossed. Although I do concede that it's like the ending wouldn't have looked the same because like zombies wouldn't have been standing over Ian like patting his shoulder like you're one of us now. But
and you can't have that the theme as well because the zombies are just mindless creatures, but the idea is that these are humanity's worst.
No, there's still that theme in every single piece of zombie media. It's like, who's the real monster here? The zombies or us?
Yeah, but it does it because the zombies are just mindless and other people are the pieces of shit. But here, the protagonists are pieces of shit, and
there's a huge difference between the protagonist and someone that saws another person in half or throws babies out windows.
Obviously, like by a literal sense, there is, but like. At what point do you keep sacrificing the people you're with? Do you become heartless enough to let people around you die? And does it really matter if you're technically better?
You can.
I'm on Sly's side. I've never seen zombies with huge bushes before.
Yeah, you can make that argument with zombies. You can be like, does it matter? Are we surviving if we keep abandoning each other? The same message is there.
This is the theme that's in basically every zombie media, every post-apocalyptic media with monsters. I mean, that's basically what it goes back to. What is civilization? And sometimes it's handled better than others, but I think I kind of agree with Darryl on this.
Yeah, especially because everything that they do with the cross...
I think the big difference is no zombie story ever has the protagonist go through such transformations. There's always other human beings they meet in that world that are bad.
I don't know.
And every cross is just like everything they do is over the top. I don't understand how they can live with each other, not kill each other. Like, why are they all friends? How much do they think? It's just none of the universe makes sense to me. I like the ideas. I don't like Crossed. So,
related to that, I think these books are good. I do not like them though. When I read a Mark Millar book, I'm like, if you like this, you're an idiot.
I recommend Nemesis over this.
Like, when I read Nemesis, I'm like, only idiots like Darryl like this. But, like, I can see the audience for this. Like, I think this is well written. I think this is a good book. This book is not for me. I was talking about before the recording that I think the reason why Sly loves it so much is because it's the most cynical thing I've ever read. And I do not like to read cynical fiction. Like, at all. And, like, but I
think
recognize...
it's more than cynical. It's nihilistic.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Good
and I recognize that, like, this is a good book. It's well written. I think the themes are really interesting. And, like, I don't want to say it's shit, but I do not want to read it.
By the way, it is super nihilistic. The whole, like, one of the running themes, like, if you read the reviews, people say when you read it, when you first read it, you're always like, oh, I wonder if there's going to be happy ending. Wonder if there's going to be some redemption for these characters. There's never any redemption. There's never any hope. There's only the cross in all these stories.
I could sum this up. I could sum it up by one scene that we didn't mention. Well, we mentioned the scene, but a piece of dialogue in it. When they're deciding whether or not to leave the baby behind in the main mini, he says, this is what always happens in these scenarios. You guys are going to use this as some metaphor for the future, and it's not. We're fucked no matter what we do, and that once one of you assholes mentions the word hope, we're screwed. We're stuck here caring for this baby. And I was like, that's a really cool speech. Like, I've never really read that before. And it's always the cliche that, like, this is hope. But I eat that cliche up. Like, every time that happens, I'm like, yes, yes.
Right. Well, and I mean, I think that's a large part of why I don't feel like I need to read anymore. Like, I feel like the thesis is established pretty clearly and early on in just those three issues. It's like, I get it.
I wouldn't recommend this for anyone except people who are signed on to the idea of these are depressing stories, exploring human nature when we're confronted with the most on human beings possible. Not just zombies, not people that are mindless, people that actually want to do horrible things to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So my defense of the gratuitous violence.
I forgot about this.
It's not. I'm not going to defend all of it because
you can't. It's impossible.
Right. Tell us why you love to see babies explode.
Yeah.
Sly.
Defend the baby.
It's fucked
scene.
up beyond belief, but there is an effective element to it that no other zombies. One of the reasons why I loved zombies for a long time, they kind of became blasé because of overuse. But one reason zombies are so much more scary to me than vampires or Frankenstein's or whatever. Because like
I think you mean Frankenstein's monster, sir.
Whatever. The term has been changed over time.
Was Frankenstein not a monster himself?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. But most monsters, they'll either just crush you to death, which, like whatever, you get crushed to death.
Another one of Sly's fetishes.
Whatever.
You don't want it to happen, but it's not something you dread it because it's a loss. It's the end of life, not because it's like the most horrible thing to ever happen to you. Like zombies are a scarier threat to me than that because they like if you see zombie movies, they'll show people still alive as the zombies eat their guts, and I'm like, that's fucking horrifying. These people are being eaten alive, and they're conscious while they're being eaten alive. That's horrifying. Mm-hmm. And in defense of Crossed, it does go beyond the pale, but it is like you fucking understand. Most of the characters in a lot of these stories always are like, I have to kill myself, I have to jump off this cliff, because the scariest fucking thing is letting the cross get to you. Like that is the last thing you want.
Yeah.
Like one of the most fucked up comic scene I've read in this entire series. I'm going to explain it to you and tarnish my reputation further. Yeah. Is one story. The guy I mentioned that he's like, I'm trying to find out the way to the zombies' weaknesses. What he does is his wife carrying his daughter her breaks her ankle, and she's like, please kill me, I don't want these things to get to me. He's like, no, don't worry dear, I know their weakness. The next scene is the two of them getting raped to death.
Jesus.
Oh Jesus.
And it is the most fucked up scene ever. And
this is why it's great.
But another thing that makes it good is, unlike a lot of, like you mentioned before, unlike the other and the stuff where there's always badass saying, I'm badass, I'm blowing up people's heads without even thinking about it. After the people see that scene, they're just like, they don't even know what to say. The last panels are just kind of just looking at it and just walking away because they don't even know how to respond to that. And as they go, they're just like, I've seen so many fucked up things. Like how do we even maintain the idea that life is valuable after seeing such horrible things? And that's one of the things in the series. Like, how is hope even a concept? How is anything a concept when these things are this fucked up?
I do feel like Crossed justifies, like, Crossed has the most realistic characters that would exist in this world. Like, this is what humanity would respond to this world as. But that sucks, and I don't want to read it. Like, I want to believe that we're better than that.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not defending this as saying you guys should love this. I'm just saying my argument for why I liked it.
No, I think that's totally fair.
I still think some of that stuff is too over the top. Like there have been terrible instances like that throughout history you can look at and you can talk about, but it's just like this world is just taking the worst possible scenarios and imparting them on people and having you witness it.
It is. It literally is. I can't deny that. But that's Crossed, and we gave our thoughts.
Yeah. If you would like to continue this conversation, or if you have any thoughts on Crossed, I bet John has thoughts on Crossed.
Oh, you think so?
I bet he does. So talk to us.
He has thoughts on everything.
In our Facebook group, Oops, I Talk Divisive Issues, and rate, review, subscribe, all iTunes, Stitcher, all that stuff. We haven't gotten any new iTunes reviews in like months, so do that, please. And quick. You know what? Michael, you give a plug for the Comrade Radio Network, because you know the shows just as well as I do.
Yeah, check out Comrade Radio. Some of my favorite shows on there are Tales from the Static by Ryan Healy, which is just my absolute favorite. I'm a big fan. There's also
And you were on the finale.
I was on the finale. It's a little bit. I mean, my palms have been greased.
Nepotism.
Yeah. Also a fan of Square Roots and Oops, I Talk Politics. Your other shows really good. Divisive Issues. And all the other shows.
We don't need to plug everybody.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk about Classic Schmassic then.
Classic's great. Oh, and we do have a Comrade episode coming out on It came out on Friday. I'm trying to think when this episode comes out. It just came out, and I know it's gonna be broken into 2 parts. And me, Sly, and Darryl are on. We interviewed for it, so I don't know if we're gonna be on this part, the next part, or like some of us. But definitely check that and the next episode of the Comrade Show because it's gonna be great. And one very last thing, Michael, tell them again about how McGurney's great.
Yeah, check out We'll Get It Right Next Year, an adventure in cinema. We're talking about We Bought a Zoo and what we think it is, and we go places with it.
Our most recent episode was a bombshell episode that has
Oh,
zombies
boy.
in it.
Yeah, that's true. Everything changes this coming Saturday, so it's a good jumping on point.
We talk about the implications of zombies in our world. It's not as edgy.
Really? You're not putting holes in the animals to put your penis
Not
in?
yet.
But
Not yet.
Teaser.
But
we did talk in depth about teledildonics and connecting 4 dildos to you to watch the Blu-ray of We Bought a Zoo. So, we do get just a little edgy.
That's what happens when my brother guests on a show.
I mean, don't play it around Grandma. Not that episode, anyway.
That's been Divisive Issues. I've been the rape truck.
I've been refusing to say hope because then we're all fucked.
I've been Prince Charles, nod off bollocks.
And I've been sitting on your face going, eat me!
Stank continuity.